So as you see on the agenda, we have another very, very powerful experience of unsafe care, which is being shared by our colleague from Australia. It's my pleasure to invite Ms. Dinaaz Lentin to share her experience of the healthcare system. And Dinaaz is an author, and she is also an international resilience and change keynote speaker, a patient safety advocate from Australia. Dinaaz, the floor is yours.
I was recently asked how many operations I've had. What I should have been asked is how many operations I've had because of harm and medical errors. Patient safety leaders and distinguished guests, I'm honoured to be invited by the World Health Organization to address all of you gathered here today and those watching globally. I've needed 28 operations to fix a medical error. If only things had been done right the first time. As a patient and a concerned citizen of the world, I must ask all of you, why? Why do patients continue to be harmed? I speak English, have good communication skills. I have 2 university degrees. I've held senior executive positions in major organisations. I'm from Australia. Our healthcare system is one of the best in the world. Yet, I've been operated on the wrong leg. I've had a surgical drain left behind. I've been given a strong electrical stimulation while still in recovery by an unsupervised medical sales rep who thought his actions were justified to wake up a patient from anaesthesia. I've had a mismanaged labour, which led to so much damage, I needed 11 operations in the first 12 months. The damage is lifelong. My next operation is in 3 weeks' time. Each and every one of these errors has a story on its own. But one thing they all have in common is all these errors were preventable. Risk and safety advocate Don Brown said, an incident is just a tip of an iceberg, a sign of a much larger problem below the surface. I saw firsthand many big Swiss cheese holes. There were many. As a patient, it's easy to identify system weaknesses that are hidden below the surface. If you want to know where the holes are in your system, engage with your patients. Elevate the voice of your patients. Your patients know exactly where your weaknesses are. I never talked about my experiences. I was traumatized, fearful, and just wanted to move on with my life. But this changed 5 years ago when I experienced what I call my Mount Everest of medical challenges. 10 days after a routine kidney stone procedure, I was left with severe pain in my left arm. I couldn't straighten my arm. I couldn't turn my hand over. I couldn't bend my thumb or my index finger. I couldn't eat with a knife and a fork, type on a keyboard, tie my shoelaces. I had so much muscle wasting. My watch was down here, and my arm was so weak, I didn't have the strength to even wear this watch. If I tried to drink water out of a glass, it would spill all over me. I couldn't even hold a phone in my hand. And when it came to typing out a text message, it took me 10 times longer. There were only 2 people who had experience with this extremely rare complication. One was a doctor who unfortunately had died. The other was the patient, me. As soon as I experienced the pain, I knew what was wrong, why it had happened, and what treatment I needed. I had all the answers because the same thing had happened to my right arm 22 years earlier, following another surgery. The timing and symptoms were exactly the same. The only trauma was the IV cannula placed in the cubital fossa at the elbow. The pain was at the elbow. The muscle wasting was at the elbow. The same thing happened to my other arm at the elbow. I had a 4-inch scar to prove it. Despite knowing my body and this condition better than anyone else, I couldn't get any doctor to listen. Over the next 14 months, I saw 49 doctors. I travelled all over Australia and communicated with doctors all over the world. I had 3 MRIs, 2 X-rays, 5 ultrasounds, 4 lots of neurological testing, and even a drug allergy test. In the first 6 months, I saw 20 different doctors, and they gave me 20 different diagnoses. I was then told it was too late. The damage was permanent, there would be no recovery, and I needed to accept the paralysis and move on. But I couldn't, because from my experience, I knew the paralysis could be reversed. When someone tells you, or in this case, when many doctors tell you to give up, you can go one of 2 ways. You either give up or you go on your own journey. I thankfully backed my gut instinct. I became a hypochondriac, and for 14 months, I spent my days and nights studying at the University of Google and YouTube. I was lucky to have that inner strength and determination, because on the other side, there are many, many, many patients who would have trusted their doctor's advice and given up. After 14 months and 49 doctors, my surgeon finally performed exploratory surgery. My lacertus fibrosis had thickened and was putting pressure on my median and anterior interosseous nerves. 2 days later, the paralysis was reversed. 3 months later, I had full recovery, and now there's nothing that I can't do with my left arm. I can also drink water without spilling. My surgeon said, "Dinaaz, you have proved each and every doctor wrong." This experience highlighted how very vulnerable patients are when their condition is rare. Doctors are good at pattern recognition, but as soon as a patient goes outside of a pattern, then they're lost. Listen to your patients. They are the experts and will help you with the diagnosis. There were many administration problems, missing pages of reports, incomplete testing. Reports were filed away before being reviewed. Radiographers took images of the wrong body parts. Radiologists provided inaccurate interpretation of the results. Patient safety is not just the avoidance of harm, it's the active pursuit of the highest quality by each and every person in the team. Because this was such a rare complication, and I saw 49 doctors, every single doctor I saw, I gathered the reports from each of them. So I have a written copy of all their reports, if it ever happens again. In the reports, I was labelled crazy, a hypochondriac, suffering from Munchausen syndrome. A professor said in the report that I was embellishing a story to create interest. He also said that an operation on my arm would be a good lesson on live anatomy for his students. and that I'd be a good replacement for a cadaver. I was even told to get my arm amputated if I couldn't accept the diagnosis. Not all harm is physical. I also carry a lot of emotional scars. If this is happening in countries like Australia, then the thought of being sick in any other country terrifies me. I'm a very private person, yet I've chosen to make some of my darkest life moments visible. I don't seek attention, and I don't want anyone's sympathy. My memoir, Battle Scars, was written to shine a spotlight on the systemic problems in healthcare. I've received emails from doctors from all over the world who've said Battle Scars should be mandatory reading for all medical students and practicing doctors. Medical students are taught, when you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras. Sometimes it's not a horse or a zebra you need to be looking for. Students can only be taught theory and pattern recognition by their professors. When it comes to the human side of medicine, the best lecturers are the patients. I believe every teaching medical facility should have a compulsory unit where the patients are the lecturers. I currently work with various hospitals and government agencies and would be honoured to partner with more healthcare facilities, change makers, government agencies and universities to help the next generation of medical professionals and their patients. To err is human is no longer an acceptable excuse. We are all here today because we know and believe there is no room for preventable medical errors. It's the right thing for the patients, the medical providers, and it's the right thing economically. Now is the time to focus our energies on creating a cultural change of trust, compassion, and excellence. I encourage you to reflect on the past with courage and honesty while looking forward to the future. My friends, I urge each of you to embrace this conference. Feel empowered and proud of the opportunity and your role in patient safety. Create a roadmap with a message from me to your medical teams. Please do it right the first time. A split second in your day can leave a lasting impact on your patients' lives. Thank you.
Dinaaz, I'm dumbstruck and I have falling short of words to express my solidarity with you. We are, and I am with you in your grief, and also I have no words to appreciate your courage. The way you've described your experience of unsafe care and how the leadership role you have taken to author the book and given a lesson to the medical students and those who are practicing medicine around the world is unparalleled. So thank you so much, Dinaaz, for being with us, for sharing your experience of unsafe care and how things should not happen. And I think what you mentioned in your concluding statement is so inspiring and motivating and empowering to everyone that it's really remarkable. Thank you so much, Dinaaz. Really appreciate it.